There are several Tomb Raider projects in the works, and anytime we hear about them, I get a little bit nervous because I don't want anyone to be messing up my girl Lara Croft or Tomb Raider as a whole. But now we're finding out one of the writers for the upcoming Amazon live-action Tomb Raider series that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is going to be writing, because they have now picked up one of the Marvel's writers. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube membership. Now, just a couple days ago, I had to talk about the Netflix animated Tomb Raider series because a lot of the concept art was released, and boy, does it look bad. But now we have some news about the live-action Amazon series that they, have been apparently hard at work on. And they have now announced one of the new writers. Now, obviously, this project was going to have issues from the very start because Phoebe Waller-Bridge is attached to it, and she has made some very questionable statements like how it would be so unrealistic for a live-action Lara to have big breasts because, yeah, that's just not realistic enough because she's tomb raiding all the time. She wouldn't be able to squeeze into these small areas. But now we found out one of the writers that they've picked up for this, definitely a big red flag, but it says the new Tomb Raider TV series currently in development at Amazon Prime Video with Phoebe Waller-Bridge attached also has the writer involved who is behind the MCU's Agatha Darkhold Diaries, WandaVision, and the recently released The Marvels. So this sounds like a plethora of strong female writers who believe in the modern message. Definitely not good. I'm sure you all know Phoebe Waller-Bridge worked on Solo, a Star Wars story, which was a nightmare. She also was recently in Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. Hollywood definitely has had a kind of fixation with her over the past few years, but now she is a part of this, and so is Megan McDonald, who is going to be writing the Tomb Raider series, which she is writing all of these other things and has written all of these things. It says she's writing the Tomb Raider series, which was first announced back in January as Amazon acquired the rights for $600 million. And this is not the only Tomb Raider project that they are doing. Like, they're also going to be having Amazon Games doing another Tomb Raider video game, which obviously we're all worried about because the last trilogy was definitely modernized. But it says the article states, following coming on board Marvel as a story editor on WandaVision, she was the first writer brought onto the Marvels. Next, she served as a consulting producer, providing writing and on-set services for Agatha Darkhold Diaries Disney Plus series. That project is a nightmare that we've heard. They've renamed it like 4 times. They've paused and started filming up many times as well. But it says the article states these projects exemplify the non-traditional approach she likes to bring to boilerplate formats, be they sitcoms or superhero tentpoles. Non-traditional approach, meaning the approach that nobody really wants. She has obviously been part of several projects that have not done good. More specifically, the Marvels. WandaVision, a lot of people did not like, but they at least thought that it was an okay start to the newest phase. But something like the Marvels has been a complete and utter disaster. She says that she loves to do something unusual and she aims to surprise, and I try to write things I want to watch. Well, unfortunately, this is an issue because she is not making content just for herself to watch. She is making content for millions of other fans of these franchises to watch, and she really doesn't understand that. And it's no surprise that something like The Marvels has been a complete and utter disaster because even though she was only one of the 3 writers on that project, she still very clearly had a lot of input, and she did help write some of it, and that movie was a nightmare. It is truly the worst MCU film so far, and I cannot believe that the higher ups at the company, the creative directors, right, like Kevin Feige, actually said, go ahead and make this movie. It might actually make us money. Absolute nightmare. But she also added, most of my stories start with whatever funk or crisis or feeling I'm living in, then I figure out how to explore that through speculative fiction. Okay, so she is saying that she she is going to be self-inserting her own issues into the upcoming Tomb Raider series like she has done in the past pieces of content she makes. I'm sorry, I do not care about your personal life, Megan McDonnell, whatever crisis you're living in or you're going through, I do not care. Okay, when I watch a Tomb Raider series, I want to see Lara Croft kicking ass, high heels, tight dresses, being just awesome, using all these kind of weapons and doing all of these kinds of awesome moves. That is what I want to see, not your personal crisis. But unfortunately, we have heard several worrying pieces of news surrounding the series. As I'm sure you all remember, I did talk about this, the smaller boobs debate. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is also on board as a writer who recently talked about how they are changing the character from a sex symbol to one that has smaller boobs. Basically, she said that they wanted to convert her to something besides being just a sex symbol, and that behind the scenes they were having a debate, right? Because she's a Tomb Raider, she has to be incredibly fit, and to add realism, she would also have to squeeze through very tiny rock crevices all the time, and she'd have to be doing all these action moves, and big boobs would simply get in the way of her doing her job. So she's basically saying that if you are a woman that has a bigger chest, you're not allowed to be a Tomb Raider. That's just too unrealistic. So we have to tone Lara Croft back, even though this is all just fictional, right? Lara Croft is a fictional character doing fictional things. It should not really matter if she has a larger chest or not. That should not be an issue if you want to pick someone who is accurate to the previous models that we have had of Lara Croft. But of course, Hollywood has tried to already modernize Lara Croft. Of course, we had the recent trilogy that started off kind of strong and then really fell off of a cliff. They did try to modernize Lara and her design in that, but also in the Alicia Vikander movies. I personally liked Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft, but I did not think that she fit the physical description of the character, even though she played her relatively well. And of course, this just means that at the end of the day, Phoebe Waller-Bridge wants to self-insert herself into Tomb Raider because she is not a very well-endowed woman, and I don't think that we can expect Lara to be a bombshell in this series at all whatsoever. I really think that we have to, unfortunately, go into this and expect the worst quality piece of content that they could possibly make. We do not know the exact budget of this live action series, but one would assume it's going to be a hefty chunk of change simply because they are bringing now at this point all of these writers on, and even though we do not know who Lara is going to be, Amazon does spend quite a lot of money on their projects, even though a lot of the times they end up being nightmares. I'm a little bit worried. Granted, we've gotten Wheel of Time from them, which was a nightmare, Rings of Power, which was a nightmare. Don't get me wrong, they have created some decent series in the past, but I just can't trust them at this point, especially when they're bringing people like Megan McDonnell and Phoebe Waller-Bridge onto this project. So while there is a lot of very worrying news surrounding this, it's still a very long ways away. I am going to be most interested to see who they end up casting as our girl Lara Croft, but at this point they have Phoebe Waller-Bridge and one of the Marvel's writers on this series, and I have a lot of red flags that are raised at this point. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.